John Wick Chapter 4 is directed by Chad Stahelski and stars Keanu Reeves, Donnie Yen, and Bill Skarsgård. As the one-man war between John Wick and the High Table reaches a boiling point, Wick decides that there's only one way to end the bloodshed once and for all. I love the John Wick movies so very much. I said this in my most anticipated movies of 2023 list that, in my opinion, the John Wick movies are one of, if not the greatest action movie franchise ever made. The first one practically reintroduced Keanu Reeves back into the fold as one of the greatest action heroes, action movie action stars of all time. John Wick Chapter 2, I absolutely love, but I will admit it is slightly worse. But still, I love the world building, and as bridge movies go, which this totally is, you could have done a hell of a lot worse. At that point, John Wick Chapter 3 was by far my favorite. I loved the world building, I loved the action, I loved the cinematography, I loved everything about this movie. When I heard that John Wick Chapter 4 was the best movie in the entire franchise by all of the early screenings, I was like, could it possibly be? Could it be? Could they possibly top the awesomeness that was Chapter 3 Parabellum? And in my opinion, yes. Absolutely yes. This is hands down the best movie in the entire franchise. Literally, just from scene one of this movie, the editing, the acting, the writing, the visuals, everything about that scene was so perfectly done that the moment it ended, I was like, yeah, we're in good hands. Let's just get this out of the way. First and foremost, the action in this movie is amazing. I mean, it's sort of a cliche to say that about the John Wick movies, but let's be honest, every single movie, the action gets better and better and better in some way, shape, or form. I will admit that I do still think that John Wick Chapter 3 had the most varied fight scenes in terms of how the environment interacted with the action, but still, I do think this movie has the most varied action scenes in terms of the fact that all of the characters have their own sort of styles. John is still doing judo throws followed by headshots like it's no one's business. Donnie Yen's blind character makes such use of his walking stick mixed with a whole bunch of different gadgets as to tell him where people are that it's actually so cool. Even some of the more minor and supporting characters that aren't in the movie a bunch, like the new characters of the Tracker and Akira, have such well-defined action sequences to their characters that even though you don't know a ton about them, everything about how they fight and how they interact with everyone around them just tells you so much about them. And that's one of my favorite things about this movie. That's also one of my favorite things about the entire John Wick franchise as a whole. The characters. Even though you don't spend a lot of time developing them, well, you do spend a lot of time developing John Wick, but I mean, he's the main character. But even then, all of the other characters in these movies have such well-defined personalities, not because they spend so much time developing them verbally, but because of how they interact with all the characters and how they fight. And that's something that I feel like the John Wick franchise doesn't get a ton of credit for, and that's something that I feel like is at the forefront of this movie a lot of times, especially between John Wick, Donnie Yen's character, and Hiroyuki Sanada's character. The three of them used to apparently be best friends, and even though you don't spend a lot of time with their interactions, the little bits that you do see of their interactions really do tell you that all of these guys have such respected history between each other. And yeah, I will admit, being a fan of the Ip Man movies myself and seeing Donnie Yen pull out a lot of Wing Chun moves in this movie, that's all I needed to see to get pumped. And along with that, the visuals in this movie are stunning, just like they've been in the entire John Wick franchise. I absolutely loved how stylish neon colors and overexposed cool colors there are in these movies. I'm a sucker for neon lights in a film, I won't lie, and the fact that in these movies, they are not only used just for stylistic value, but also to tell the story and to add symbolism to it all, enough that I won't get into it. There are tons of video essays analyzing how color is used in the John Wick franchise, but the colors and the lens flares and just how many wide shots were in the action scenes, allowing you to take in all the amazing choreography, just added to how amazing both the directing and the cinematography is. And also the music in this movie is fantastic. Not only do you have a whole bunch of different variations of the classic John Wick theme, but also the techno action scenes that's in every single one of these movies. And it just adds so much awesomeness to each and every fight scene. And along with that, you also have a whole bunch of already existing songs in this movie. There's one point in this film where they play Paint It Black in an action scene, and the moment that I heard that first note, I was like, this is what I need. This is what I need right now. And have I mentioned the action in this movie is amazing? Because the action in this movie is amazing. The Paris fight scenes, the Japan fight scenes. Literally, there is a scene in this movie that's just a one-take broken overhead of John Wick going throughout an entire building. Multiple different levels, and you just see the long destruction of it all. And it's so cool. And the world building is just as good in this movie as it is in every single one of these movies. I could literally watch an entire movie just about the high table and the assassin world of John Wick itself without even John Wick and be completely satisfied. I keep hearing that they're going to make a TV show about the Continental at one point. Do it! That sounds amazing! And yes, this movie is long, by far the longest movie in the entire franchise. Whereas the other three movies were around 2 hours long, this movie is 3 hours long, and it definitely feels like it. And I will admit, throughout the majority of the movie, I did not care because I was loving every single thing that I was seeing. There was one portion in the middle of the movie that definitely felt like it dragged. You'll know it when you see it because it's the only part in the movie that feels like a side quest, whereas everything else in the movie, for as long as it was taking, felt like a big expansive quest. But with that said, that little bit in the middle of the movie is my only problem with this film. I did not care how long this movie was because everything that was on display was near action perfection. The action is mind-blowing. The characters and acting say little while conveying a lot. The visuals are gorgeous, the world building is rich, and the music is awesome. With this movie's 3-hour runtime, the fact that there's only one segment that I feel they could have shortened or cut out is a miracle. And I just want to close out my review by saying, rest in peace, Lance Reddick. Your legacy in both the John Wick franchise and just entertainment in general, whether it be movies, TV, or video games, will last forever. I'm going to give John Wick Chapter 4 an A+. Well guys, thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments down below, what is your favorite John Wick movie? I know a lot of people are saying that John Wick 4 is their favorite, and that includes me, but if you have a different opinion, just let me know, especially if your favorite is John Wick Chapter 2, because I do know a couple people who think that's their favorite, and I do want to hear your reasonings behind it. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are the best, and don't forget to click subscribe and click the bell icon down below to stay up to date on all things movie, all things TV, all things nerd.